So the concept of tweaking your computer is simply to get rid of things or move things out of the way that might steal from the processor. So ideally on a computer running music production, I'm not talking about games, video editing, anything else. I'm talking about music production. What a music production computer benefits from is processor cycles, that processor being always on and nothing else in the way. Those are the key things. If you can crack that, then you've really got it. And as I say, there will be other things that we can talk about, but those will be troubleshooting things as opposed to general purpose tweaks. This is how to do it. Right. Okay, so first thing, easy thing, Task Manager. So right click your taskbar, Task Manager. You might have to click on the More Details tab, like so, yeah? But in here, all we're looking at is Startup. This is one of the oldest tweaks, I think, is killing things on Startup. In this place are all the things that start up when Windows starts. Now, if you have things which are starting up when Windows starts, it's sitting there using up your processor. Probably not very much. But what's more important is that these things might be addressing the processor every now and again. They might be saying, I need to do something. I need to do this. You know, and you've got Lady Gaga over there who's just given the performance of her life into a microphone, into your computer. And your, I don't know, Windows Defender goes, oh, look, I just want to do a scan. And the whole thing crackles and it goes horribly wrong. You know, that's not the sort of position that you want to be in. So with anything that's in here, you can pretty much safely go to right click on them and click disable. See its status goes from enabled to disabled. It's that simple. That's it. That's it. Cortana, disable that. This Flux thing, disable that. Now you may find there's things in here that you do need, so don't be stupid. So for instance, I've got a Motu M4 audio interface is what I'm using as my audio interface today, and so I'd like to have the control panel for that running because I might need it. It's there, it's part of what that needs to run, and so I'm going to leave that enabled. So you might find things enabled or disabled, but you can go through and essentially disable them all. See, that was easy. I mean, that's it, almost. So there we go, that's your first main tweak. You can do that anyway. Now these things tend to pop up down by the clock, down here. And so that's a good place to check to see if you've got a whole load of stuff going on. So if you're running a project and it's crackling, go down here. And you'll notice all these things. Some of them can be exited, some of them can be quit. Otherwise, do it here in the Task Manager and then restart your computer and all those things will be gone and they won't be bothering you anymore. So that's a great tip for any system, anytime. It calms down the whole system, you get less notifications, less stuff going on. A few more background ones. Yeah, that'd be good to do a couple more background ones while we're on that theme. So we're going to right click. If you've never right-clicked on the start menu down here, do so. It's a fascinating little menu that will get you to all sorts of places really quick. So if we look in settings, I want to be in privacy. Would you believe? Privacy. So a couple of things in here. Speech. Online speech recognition. You can turn that off. This is to do with Cortana. Now Cortana is Microsoft's answer to Siri or that Amazon, what's she called? The Amazon one. And it's useful. It's very useful in a work or media-based situation, not so useful for making music. And so you can turn that off so it doesn't try to do anything in the background. You don't want Cortana mucking around in the background, so turn that off. The other one is down here, background apps. Now this is purely that it allows apps that you might start up, whether it's something simple like the calculator, to rather than disappear when you close them, to run happily along in the background. And again, that's something which I don't think is particularly helpful. This is not a massive problem, but it's just one of those little tweaks to turn those things off so that they're not there. They're not giving you the possibility of getting in the way or popping up when it's decided to update itself. That's the background sorted out. Is there anything proactive that we can do? Well, let's have a look. Let me tell you a couple of things which aren't really necessary anymore. System, isn't that what I want? That's better. So things like Windows security, for instance, this come up here. We're talking about virus protection. Avoid it if you can. There's plenty of virus protection within Windows as it is. Windows security is all right. It's relatively benign, doesn't really trouble you very much, doesn't get in the way. If you install something like Norton, it will ruin the performance of your system. Every time I've seen it. AVG, similar idea. They kind of put themselves into every aspect of your system and really can get in the way, slow things down, and they're popping up every 5 minutes telling me they've updated themselves. So unless your kids perhaps are playing with your computer, then just use standard Windows security. That should be enough, unless you're a dark web type surfing person. Yes, power. Power is the last place of interest. Power settings. Now this, you kind of ignore this a little bit because I've been messing with this a great deal because we ran into all sorts of trouble with the May update from Microsoft that removed all of the customizations that I'd done in here. And so I've been fighting to get it back, and I have now got it back, thankfully, but it's just messed all this up a little bit. So don't worry about it. But on a normal computer, on a desktop computer, you would normally get a couple of choices. You would get a balanced choice and you get a high performance choice. And for a music PC, you want to choose high performance. It's very simple. And that is almost enough. There's a couple of other adjustments that you can make. Now, if you're on a laptop or a Surface, you may not get the option for high performance. And I will go through that in a minute. In the second half of this, I'll go through that. But I'm just going to assume that you have either a desktop or a laptop where this happens. One thing to check, that if you don't have high performance here, if you just have the balanced option and no other options, is to click on create a power plan, and that may give you access to high performance, and you could select it that way. That doesn't work on this computer, sadly, but there we go. I will show you that, as I say, in a minute. But there's a couple of extra advanced performance things to do within the plan settings. So you go on to change plan settings. You don't want the display to turn off particularly. When it's on battery, it doesn't really matter if you're running on battery, because I would suggest if you're running it on battery, then all of the tweaks you're trying to do aren't really going to work, because when you're on battery, the processor wants to shut down, and that's what it's designed to do. So you have to work within those confines, if you like. I'm assuming that it's plugged in, that this is a normal computer, you're plugging it in. And for that, you don't want the display to turn off. You just want to leave it on. But that's a personal choice, I would say. So under advanced power settings, there's a few things in here which you can tweak. Bring it a bit more central. Turning the hard drive off. You don't want the hard drive to turn off. You might be playing your guitar, practicing your riff, and then you're going to hit record and your hard drive is going to have to respin up. Of course, it's not a real major problem with SSD drives, etc., but it's just one of those things that you don't want your computer to power down. You don't want things going to sleep. You don't want things turning themselves off, because when you hit play, your whole computer needs to be ready to fire everything all at once, all the virtual instruments, all the effects, all the audio, all the streaming of stuff in and out. It has to be able to do that instantaneously when you hit the spacebar or press play or whatever. And anything which has gone to sleep is not going to be able to do that. So you avoid those sorts of things. So here you put it to never, which is essentially putting it to 0. Sleep, you can have a look at that. You don't want your system to go to sleep. Well, on battery it hibernates after, I don't know how long it is, a very long time. Generally put it to never. USB settings, selective suspend setting, put that to disabled. You don't want USB ports to suddenly suspend or go to sleep. ignoring most other stuff in here. The other thing that's important is processor power management. You have a minimum and a maximum processor state. Now, if you want your computer's processor to remain stable the whole time, so the same speed, there's often a bit of misconception over what I mean by that, because what I mean by that is your processor is spinning at a particular speed, but it doesn't mean that it's actually doing any work, and it doesn't mean that it's maxed out at 100 the whole time. It just means that that's the speed that it's currently cycling, and when it gets information and stuff to crunch, it will do it at the top speed. So when you set it to 100%, your computer, normally speaking, not all the time, but on a normal desktop computer, will mean that it will run at its maximum allowable speed. And that's good. That's what you want. Now, in a Surface environment, that may not be quite so good, because that may mean that your system will essentially run too fast and overheat and not be very efficient. But we're going to look at that in a moment. And this is the place where we can actually enable and disable turbo mode, which you'll see is also important. And just to finish off belts and braces, we're going to go to the device manager, which you can get to again by right clicking on the start button. Go to device manager, and you can just pick out a couple of USB hubs. So to summarize, what did we do? We went to the task manager, startup, and removed anything that starts up when the computer starts up. We went to settings, privacy, turned off background apps, and also turned off Cortana's speech. We then went to the power settings, set it to ultimate performance, which you won't have as an option until you've done a bit of a tweak, which I'll show you in the Surface bit in a minute. But set it to high performance, which is plenty, change the plan settings, and stop things from going to sleep, and put processor minimum and maximum to 100%. That's it. That should be enough to get any system working pretty well. Pretty well. Right, so the problem we had with the 2004 May update was that, well, we've had this problem. It happens a lot with this sort of system, because let me try to fill you in with something like a Surface, which is a brilliant system. I love the whole pen thing. I love the touch thing. It's a beautiful little computer, but it's not designed for a high level piece of software like a DAW or software synthesizers. That's not really what it's for. In order to achieve long battery times, for instance, and to achieve its thermal profile, which is fanless. This is fanless. There's no fan in it. So is the current one. What Microsoft wants is for the processor to be running as slowly as possible. And so the design of this is based on the idea that you can do stuff, and then when it needs an extra boost, the processor goes whoom, up to the top, a massive kind of jump in processor speed. It does that process you want to do really nice and quick, and then as you're doing normal stuff again, it then just comes down and calms down and just carries on. So anything which is going to prevent that from doing that, Microsoft doesn't like, because it doesn't want it catching fire, it doesn't want it breaking, it doesn't want its life to be reduced. However, when we're running music software, we want it on all the time. We want it all on. And so this is a slight battle we have on this sort of laptop. There are many, many other machines like this that are not Surfaces, but use similar processors and have a similar policy in trying to slow everything down. That's normal. You know, they're not trying to be mean. That's just how things are. So things like high performance or ultimate performance in the power settings kept getting pulled out. And you could put it back through some jiggery pokery and you could re-find it. And we did that, and then it all worked again. And then Microsoft would find another way of pulling it out. And then we found another way in and put it back again. And then they started removing the advanced settings, which we were able to find through a little hack in the registry called Connected Standby, or rather was regarding Connected Standby. And it didn't mean anything. I mean, Connected Standby is kind of a sort of a sleep mode thing that we're not interested in. It had nothing to do with that. The tweak was purely about when you disabled it, those power options came back. And that was all we cared about. We were then able to turn off turbo mode on the processor, which fixed problems on certain laptops. Okay? So Unfortunately, with the May 2004 update, our ability to get into the CSEnabled entry in the registry was taken away. So we could no longer get access to turning the turbo mode on and off. And that was a problem. If you saw my review in Sound on Sound of a massive dual screen Asus Zen book thing that I did, that could not play a single software synth. It had a desktop equivalent processor inside, massive processor, but you know, the laptop version of. But with turbo mode on, it would crackle. It would crackle. Just playing normal software synths. And it was only when I disabled turbo could that massively powerful machine be used for just the simplest musical tasks. But you had to turn off turbo mode. Since the May update, that's been removed, and so you can no longer use that computer at all for music, just because that has been removed. That's not Microsoft's fault. They're trying to keep things under control. But we need to be able to get access to those sorts of things. Right. So where are those sorts of things? So this is what you end up faced with. You're faced with this problem where you have no options. You go to create a power plan and there's no options. This is what's happened since the latest update. So you can't go to high performance mode. You can't make that tweak. Therefore, you can't make this system suitable for music. It will still do a bit. I mean, surfaces are good enough for you to take it out of the box and run music software, and it will work. But you will start to hit problems. I was experimenting with this on the other machine earlier, and running the 2600, the Cherry Audio 2600. If I left it unbalanced, I would get little bubbles, little glitches, just every now and again, just a little tick. You know, nothing bad was happening. Well, obviously that was something bad that was happening, but it seemed to be playing back right, and you didn't really hear it, and then you did hear it. And then just swapping it back to ultimate power mode totally removed that problem. So there's definitely something that works by doing this tweak on this sort of system. Let me show you what I'm going to do. Right, I've put these links in the description down here. Things you may need. So the first one is this one. This one hopefully should restore our ability to use the ultimate power scheme. You can also do one of these. There's another one for these that just produces the high performance power scheme, but we might as well go for the ultimate one. I don't really understand if there's a massive difference between the two, but it says ultimate. I mean, heck, let's go for that. So I've copied that. I'm going to go over to the start, right click, go for Windows PowerShell admin. Gosh, I hope this works. I'm going to Control V paste it. Yeah, so that's that line I've just copied. I'm going to hit return. Okay, something appeared to happen. Blah, 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 blah. Ultimate performance. Excellent. Let's exit. So at this point, I'm going to restart. Right, so if we go back to our control panel, go back to power options. Back before this last update, that would have presented us with the ultimate power plan. And that's what we've been working on so far. But at the moment it hasn't. Now, I think the other thing that I need to do might perhaps make this work. There's another one. Now, this is the tweak that I found that solves, hopefully, this problem. This is a registry edition, which hopefully should get us back to the place where we can access that power plan. Going to run the PowerShell again. So Control V. This is going to add this line to the registry. Completed successfully. Excellent. Of course, when looking for a solution for the connected standby enable disable thing, you have to go through an awful lot of web pages and forums and stuff where people are trying to get connected standby to work, and that was their problem. Whereas I'm just trying to find a way to get back these power settings. It's really, really difficult to navigate your way through all that kind of stuff. But here we are. This was the solution I thought that I had found. Control panel, power options. Oh, show additional plans. Look at that. Look at that. There it is. Oh my goodness. So ultimate performance. So go to change plan settings. We would do the tweaks that we would normally do, put that down to never, change advanced power settings. Now before, with the May update, you could get to this with the first tweak that I did, but all of these would be missing. And that's what you had to enable with the CSEnabled tweak. Since that was taken away, this was left completely empty, well, except for one or two inconsequential parts. But now, because of that second tweak, and because of the recent updates to Windows which have removed the ultimate performance mode at all, and the high performance mode, we can now get back into this, and these are back. And this is vital. So I can now go into the processor management and set what I want it to be for music making. Okay, so that there is the answer to the May 2004 and the 22H Windows update that has removed those things from people using Surfaces and similar machines. Got that?